Hey everybody, you're watching Classic Cinema, the channel that will help you scratch that classic movie itch. If you've just started digging into the classics, or you are a lifelong fan, stay tuned because today I'm going to recommend 10 movies released in 1961 that you might have missed or just forgot about that I think are underappreciated. Most of these were not the top films that year, like West Side Story or the Guns of Navarone, but they are still great and worth a watch. The first movie today is Underworld U.S.A. Directed by Samuel Fuller, it stars Cliff Robertson in a career-boosting role as a lone man seeking revenge for his father's death. This gritty, brutal tale has Robertson entering the violent criminal world of organized crime, where while in prison, he finds out the names of his father's killers. Once released, he discovers that they have become mob bosses and with the help of the DA and the federal government attempts to take the killers down. This violent noir movie shows the brutality of both sides of the law and how either side will do whatever it takes to win, no matter the cost. Considered somewhat violent at the time, it seems kind of lame now, but the acting is kind of uneven a little, but the direction is good, the story is pretty tightly woven. There is one scene towards the end of the movie that you'll kind of get a chuckle out of because it seems kind of ridiculous, but all in all it's still a pretty good watch, but that's why it's number 10 on the list. If you enjoy movies like Double Indemnity and The Big Sleep, try this noir classic out. A gem of a movie that has gone under the radar is Cash on Demand. Directed by Quentin Lawrence, who happened to be a scientist who worked on the Manhattan Project during World War II. It stars Peter Cushing, yes, that Peter Cushing, in a non-horror role. And it also stars Andre Morel. These two put on an acting clinic. This film is unique as it is a combination Christmas story, bank heist, and a very immersive workplace study all rolled into one. Just before Christmas, the criminal Morel poses as an insurance investigator to inspect the small town bank that Cushing is the manager of. Morel's gang holds Cushing's wife and son hostage so that he can rob the bank of £96,000. This film is tense and claustrophobic, as it occurs only on the set of the bank, and the robbery is also filmed in real time. Cushing definitely plays against type here in that he is a very prim and stern bank manager who is a control freak, and when the criminals come in and the rug's kind of jerked out from underneath him and he seems kind of lost and bewildered and doesn't know exactly what to do. If you like heist films, definitely check this one out. Number 8 on this list is Murder, She Said. Taken from one of Agatha Christie's novels, this film is the first in a series of 4 early 60s Miss Marple movies with the delightful Margaret Rutherford playing the famous character. A good old-fashioned murder mystery, Miss Marple is a female Sherlock Holmes. The story starts when she happens to see a murder in a passing train. After her report is blown off by the police, Miss Marple begins her own investigation. Watching her is kind of like watching your tough old grandma solve a murder mystery. Rutherford alone is reason enough to watch as she steals every scene she is in. She is a treasure to watch and she really sinks her teeth into the role. If you're interested in a fun, non-violent thriller with a few thrills, I think you will enjoy it. The next movie at number 7 is Blast of Silence. This black and white, low-budget movie filmed in New York was written and directed by Alan Barron, who also stars as the main character, Frank Bono. Supposedly, he only paid $20,000 to have this film made. This bleak, hard-boiled film noir is about a hitman sent to New York to take out a gangster for the mob. From the unusual opening throughout the entire film, the viewer will sense an unsettling and foreboding atmosphere. Also from the beginning shot, a voiceover narration acts as Frank's inner thoughts, giving you insight into his weaknesses and emotions. This unusual but clever technique humanizes the killer and gives the audience insight into this silent, angry hitman who has trouble expressing his inner emotions. Barron is from New York and uses that knowledge effectively in choosing his locations. It's interesting to see the city, how it looked in 1961. He does a wonderful job in focusing on the loneliness of being a professional hitman in this character study. The gritty cinematography gives it a documentary-like feel. It's also kind of an expose that tells you everything you need to know about how a cautious hitman thinks and acts. He carefully monitors his target to find out the best time to take him down. If you like movies like The Asphalt Jungle or Maltese Falcon, I think this movie will surprise you. The second of their 3 movies together, Rock Hudson and Doris Day star in Lover Come Back. This fun, lighthearted, romantic comedy is typical fare for this period. Day and Hudson play competing ad agents in New York who have never met. Hudson steals a potential client using unsavory methods according to Day, and she plots to win the next big account. Tony Randall is a treat as Hudson's clueless millionaire boss and is a scene stealer. Day plays off her all-American good girl image, while Hudson plays the hard-drinking womanizer. For the time, the dialogue and double entendres might have seemed a little risque, but the wordplay is fun and quick. It seems tame by today's standards. The sets and clothing look dated, but still retain a touch of class. There's nothing earth-shattering about this movie. It's kind of silly and ridiculous a lot of the times, but you should just enjoy it for what it is. If you're in the mood for a good old-fashioned rom-com, Lover Come Back is a fun watch. The number 5 movie on the list today is The Misfits, directed by the great John Huston and starring 2 gigantic Hollywood stars in their last film, Clark Gable and Marilyn Monroe. The Misfits is a modern-day Western about lonely people who have trouble fitting into society. Written by acclaimed author and playwright Arthur Miller, Monroe's husband, the movie is probably less known than the legendary unrest on the set. Monroe and co-star Montgomery Clift were constantly on booze and pills and always late. There were production delays, fights on the set between actors and director. Despite all its flaws, over the years it has become regarded as one of Huston's best films. Gable and Monroe give the best performances of their careers. Gable also insisted on doing all of his own stunts during the movie. This is not a typical action western. In fact, it kind of shows how the modern day cowboy is odd man out as far as society and how they don't fit in anymore. If you are a fan of any of these Hollywood stars and have never seen it, I highly recommend it. It's just really fun watching all these big stars work together. The next film at number 4 is Whistle Down the Wind, a British drama that is appealing to the whole family. It stars Hayley Mills, who starred in several Disney films as a child actor, and Bernard Lee, who would achieve fame as James Bond's no-nonsense boss M. The plot is simple but interesting. 3 children find a man sleeping in their barn one day, and through several mistakes, they think he is the second coming of Jesus Christ. Unknown to them, he is an escaped criminal wanted by the police. The movie is simply a study of childhood innocence and conveys the mysteries of faith as seen through a child's eyes. The 3 child actors do a wonderful job, and it is a beautiful film with fantastic cinematography. Watching this will remind you of what childhood was like before technology and social media, and how that level of imagination and innocence seems to be extinct. If you are a fan of Mary Poppins or Willy Wonka, give this one a watch. For those of you who like gothic horror, the number 3 film on the list is a chilling ghost story called The Innocents. Based on the 19th century story, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, Deborah Kerr plays a governess sent to care for a pair of orphans in a creepy old mansion. The governess becomes convinced the younger brother and sister, played perfectly by the child actors, are possessed by ghosts. Or are they? Or is she simply losing her grip on reality? The movie does a great job of leaving this ambiguous. Even now, this movie can be disturbing, especially watching it at night in the dark. It is a wonderfully crafted film with great cinematography and superb acting. There is no sex or violence, but at times this movie can make you uncomfortable. Also, this film unnerved me somewhat, but I'm not a huge horror fan. The opening title shot with the kids singing the creepy song will give you the chills from the start. To me, the scariest movies uses your imagination against you. I'd recommend this film if you like movies with old haunted houses with really creepy kids. Also, I would watch this if you really like The Shining. Today's number 2 film is 1, 2, 3. Written and directed by the great Billy Wilder, director of such classics as Some Like It Hot, The Apartment, and Double Indemnity. 1, 2, 3 is a fun, charming satire that pokes fun at Germany, Russia, and American capitalism in post-war Berlin. Film legend James Cagney is the star, and he is at his best, delivering sarcastic one-liners with rapid-fire speed. In his last film, Cagney plays a hard-driving boss of the German branch of Coca-Cola, obsessed with capturing the untapped market of Russia across the newly erected Berlin Wall. Instead, he is tasked with chaperoning his boss's teenage daughter for 2 weeks in Berlin. Hilarity and hijinks ensue. This somewhat underappreciated and forgotten film displays a funny yet critical image of the Americanization of post-war Berlin, especially since it is actually filmed in Berlin. Even 60 years later, it still feels somewhat modern. A fun time can be had by film buffs, casual historians, and comedy fans alike. And now finally, on to number 1. I cannot end this list without including the legendary classic, The Hustler. It stars 2 Hollywood heavyweights, Paul Newman and Jackie Gleason, but also features a superb supporting cast with George C. Scott, Piper Laurie, Myron McCormick, and Murray Hamilton. It's one of my all-time favorites. Newman plays a talented pool hustler named Fast Eddie Felson, whose goal is to beat Minnesota Fats, the most renowned pool player at the time. This movie takes the viewer on a tour of seedy pool halls full of low-life hustlers and pool sharks. Newman's Fast Eddie lacks character, and he's cocky and self-destructive. At first, Fast Eddie has success, but then experiences a tragedy. Then he goes on a soul-searching journey with a woman, Piper Laurie, who is as messed up as he is, and then after much introspection, he achieves a bittersweet redemption towards the end. This role vaulted Newman into the upper echelon of leading men, and the great Jackie Gleason shows his range as the slick, confident Minnesota Fats. He gives the impression that he's seen 1,000 punks like Fast Eddie over the years, and he moves around the pool table like a lion sizing up his prey. George C. Scott is menacing as the cold-blooded gambler and manager Burt Gordon. He is merciless and really adds depth to the film. In my opinion, this is one of the best films ever made, and like a fine wine, it just gets better with time. I'd recommend you watch it at least once if you've never seen it. So that's it for today, folks. Thanks for watching, and once again, click the subscribe button below. I'd love to see your comments and let me know what your favorite movie of 1961 is. Adios, amigos.